Okay.
So what I'm going to do is present my own desktop, just my primary monitor. Welcome to my nightmare of icons. I'm just going to start up the slideshow though. And in the meantime, I'm also going to try to get chat over to my other window. There we go. Now, if you have any questions and you want to add something through chat, you totally can. And we will get started. And that didn't work because it is presenting on another window. Hold on a second here. Primary monitor. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is the round 12 mini grants online kickoff meeting. We're going to try to keep this in under an hour. If you are dialing in, you may miss some visuals. That's because we are both going through a PowerPoint and we'll go through a tour of the R12 info page. We are making a recording of this meeting. That's good to know both because this meeting is being recorded and because we will be sharing this out later if you are missing the visual stuff and you want to check it out later on. We'll also be putting these up on the Round 12 info site. So if you have any questions and you're not able to speak through the microphone or anything like that, I haven't done a mute all. You can totally chime in if you would like. But you can also put your questions into chat because I'll be looking at these right here under conversation.
Jeff,
Yes.
just let you know, on my screen here it says chat not available.
Ah, okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, hopefully we do have a lot of microphones available then. Skype looks a little bit different depending on the platform you're on, and so it's hard to give kind of tech consultations on this, particularly if you're using a Mac. That can be a little interesting.
Yeah, I'm the victim. I'm using Mac.
Ah, yes. Okay. Well,
So
if
don't
you're using
worry,
a Mac,
I
I
speak
hope.
through my microphone.
Yeah. And I can also see when somebody's typing a message, so if someone's typing something in, I know that that message is incoming soon enough. So first of all, the most important part of this entire meeting is to get you all to get to know each other a bit, because you all have your separate projects, but it's also really nice to know what everyone else is doing. So feel free to chime in on a microphone or type it into the chat, although we know now that some people are not able to view that chat. I'm just going to open this up to conversation. The 4 questions we've got: who are you? Where and what do you teach? What are you making or revising for the project? And why did you choose OER? And you can use the microphones for this if you would like.
I will go to the office. Okay, I go.
Oh, there are 14 participants. Could be good.
I'm seeing that some people are typing, but I am not hearing any voice responses at the moment.
Hello?
Hello!
Hi, this is Bronson Long from Georgia Highlands College.
Oh, good to meet you, Dr. Long.
Good to talk with you as well. Yes.
Yeah. So, if you would like to introduce yourself, we are doing a quick intro of who you are, what you teach, what you're revising for this project or making, and why did you choose OER?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Bronson Long from Georgia Highlands College. I teach history. There are 2 other my colleagues, Jamie Fagan and Steve Blankenship, who are also involved in this as far as the instructional experts.
Mm-hmm.
And we are revising American History 1, a mini grant. We have an open resource textbook. We've already created a lot of resources for that. We've had a previous grant. But there are some aspects of the textbook that are lacking. So we're creating some videos to basically kind of plug the holes. And that can be added onto D2L as a really nice supplement, particularly for online classes, but for face-to-face as well.
Yeah, that is a great idea for sure. I remember there was a group in, I think someone is in here who did it, who made the video collection for anatomy and physiology recently, and that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, Aisha Adams says we don't have admin access. Interesting. To use the microphone on our computer. But this is Aisha Adams and Stephanie De Silva from Columbus State University. We're working on ancillary materials for research methods in psychology. Sandip Das from Kennesaw State University doing electrical engineering. He has two other colleagues in the department in this project, Professor Walter Thane and Professor Sheila Hill. Hillary Fleener from Columbus State University, Dr. Heinem Carroll and her teach computer science. They're creating a repository of automatically scored programming problems for Computer Science 1. Awesome. Levent Balut from Valdosta State University, teaching Survey of Economics at the College of Business, writing some study materials for an OpenStax textbook he's using for his courses. Dr. Das says we all teach electronics, and in this project we will develop and refine the labs. Jason Christian at Georgia Highlands College. He teaches biology. He's on 3 mini-grants to add lab manuals to non-major biology, general zoology, and lab videos for anatomy and physiology too. Did large grants for these course lecture materials, but now the labs need work to make them and keep them OER and be current. Awesome.
This is Becky Rutherford
Hello.
from Kennesaw State. Hi. And my colleague Laylee, who's also on the call, but I'm actually up in Norfolk calling you on the way to the hotel. But we're doing a mini grant to revise some of our database courses. We previously had an ALG grant to develop them originally, but it's been 3 years, and so we need to update them.
That's great. It was awesome to hear from Dr. Rutherford at the Open Education Conference this year over in Niagara Falls.
Great place to have it.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, this is Danya and Drew's Little and
Oh, I was hearing you. Everything okay?
All right, I'll just come in and fill in the blank.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, we're from Georgia State University Perimeter College, and we work in the kinesiology and health department.
And we're doing content, ancillary content for CPR and first aid. And primarily the first aid component. We're going to be doing videos and study guides and other types of materials to accompany our textbook. That's part of the affordable learning as well.
Awesome. We heard from Brandy Rogers at Georgia Highlands College, working on 2 different projects along with several colleagues to revise and improve the lab manuals for non-major foundations of biology, as well as videos to supplement instruction for majors biology.
Hello, everyone. This is Laylee. I'm from the Kennesaw State University. Dr. Rutherford already introduced our mini grant, so I just want to say hi.
Hi, Dr. Lee. Good to see you.
Hey.
Dr. Lee has led quite a few of our standard and large-scale textbook transformation grants for technology up at Kennesaw State.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any others come in at the moment, but if you would like to introduce yourself later on, that is totally fine by me. We're going to head into the kind of grant procedure stuff that everybody needs to know. I know that we're all at different points of view when it comes to OER. The first group that we had for mini grants, it was like everybody was returning from grants. They knew all about open education. This time around, it's a bit more mixed. So we'll go through the procedure stuff. That's what everybody needs to know. But at the end, we'll suggest a few things to brush up on if you're new to open education. So the 2 big contacts that you need to know for the grant program are me and Marie Lassiter. I'm the program manager of Affordable Learning Georgia. I do most of the grants administration work. I do all the service level agreements, which you'll be seeing very soon. And when you have any reporting questions, implementation assistance, feel free to contact me. Marie Lassiter is a doctor of instructional design, and she had been working with the Office of Faculty Development here at the University System of Georgia for a long time. She was working on open textbooks before Affordable Learning Georgia even got started. When it comes to instructional design and pedagogy, she's the person to contact about this stuff. She's wonderful when it comes to open education. So yesterday, I added you all to the ALG Grantees L listserv. This was a list that we made in order to get announcements out to all the grantees. And at first, we just had one round of grantees, so it was pretty easy. But once we had 2, 3, 4, round 5, we had to find out ways to differentiate who these emails were for. Sometimes we had 3 rounds that had a deadline and 2 rounds that didn't. So we decided on putting some brackets in the subject line to help you out, to say, whether or not you need to actually pay attention to this thing. If I'm sending a general email, like an invitation to present at the Teaching and Learning Conference or something like that, those won't usually have brackets, or I'll just put all. But emails for only you, R12 is for round 12, mini R12 is just for you, or mini is for all the mini grantees. You won't get too many of these emails, but every so often we'll need to announce something here. As reporting deadlines get closer, I'll send out some reminders. And when you're replying to the entire listserv, just be careful that you know you're replying to the entire listserv and not just to me. There are some personal questions that people have, some finance questions that people have, very institution-specific questions, and those don't necessarily need to get out to the whole group. So if those happen, just let me know at jeff.gallant@usg.edu instead of the entire listserv. So the way that funding works, this is still a USG grant, like our bigger textbook transformation grants. And they work a little bit differently from what you'd see from a federal grant or an external non-governmental organization grant. Those have their own guidelines, and the BOR has guidelines as to how those are going to be treated. These are a bit different from that. The biggest difference is that you won't see things called indirect costs on this one. These go directly to the institution itself to cover your time to get the work done that is on your proposal. This covers your time and your project expenses if you need a piece of software or something like that. If you need travel funding, this is part of the whole grant process. Travel expenses are a lot more common in the big standard scale and large scale ones because they have to go to an in-person kickoff meeting in Macon. But funding for all grants, including mini grants, is released in 2 parts. There's 50% when we return the contract to our office signed, with both the USG signatures and the institutional signatures, which takes a while. And then the final report submission, and the final report comes with the final materials in these projects. That's when the last 50% is released. And the reason why we do this instead of direct stipends is because we make it as flexible as possible for your team and the institution to get the work done. So for example, if you have a 3-person team, and turnover happens sometimes, if you're able to bring somebody new on, that's not a big, long procedure in which you have to get line items changed and amended and approved by us. You're able to just kind of let us know and from there just work with your institution on how it's going to be done past this point. And also because OER creation is such a new thing, not everybody knows how the process is going to work at the beginning. Even though you might have a great proposal, something in it might change. And at that point, a service level agreement really makes this a flexible process. You're able to just work with your institution to get things changed around to really fit how to get this work done the best. And of course the 50% funding, that ensures that we are accountable and ensures you're accountable. This is kind of how all the grants go for USG programs now, because it's looked very good. One thing you'll want to know is who is your contact in your business or grants office. This depends on your institution. A lot of people have a grants office, an office of sponsored programs. They are called different things depending on where you are. But if you're coordinating with them as to how to distribute funds, that's really good, because the sooner that you're in contact with them, the better. They need to know that these are allocations of state funds. This is not a grant from an external organization, because if they think it's a grant from an external organization, they're going to put a whole bunch more rules on it that don't really apply to allocations of state funds. Indirect costs are not considered a part of the grant costs, for example. Direct costs, those are fine. Salaries, fringes, etc. Supplies, travel, that stuff is part of it. But the indirect stuff that happens in a lot of other grants, that's not the case with these.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm hearing an office conversation. Okay, thank you, Dr. Lee. So what we'll do is just go a little bit into what you're going to see in terms of documentation. The service level agreement is a very standard one. It's something that you'll see in a lot of projects in the university system. It's a good intergovernmental document, so we can go between departments that are providing services because of particular talents that they have, and you just have an agreement between the two. What this basically says is we are funding the work to get done in the statement of work, and we're funding the institution to get that done. And your institution then ensures that this work is completed by the deadline. That deadline is the end of the semester in which you said the final semester was going to happen. For some of you, that's the summer. For some of you, that's the fall. This is the document that we use for all textbook transformation grant funding. We use it for the big ones and for the mini ones. This includes all of the deadlines. So when you get a service level agreement, be sure to check the deadline part of it. So it'll say at one point, this work has to be completed by a big date written out for the end semester that you have. If that's not your final semester, please let us know and we can fix that quickly. Once this stuff gets signed and once this stuff gets funded, it's way harder for us to change it at that point. Instead, if we're able to change it before we get the signatures, then there's no amendment process. We just fix it and then we move forward. So once you get the service level agreement, just be sure that the deadlines and the amount of funding, that kind of stuff is correct. So this is how it usually goes. I'm drafting the SLAs right now. And what I'll do is distribute them all to the project leads. Those are the lead applicant on each grant proposal. So if you're not the project lead, you won't get an SLA email. If you do want the SLA along with your project lead, please let your project lead know so that they can forward it to you if you're helping out. But be sure that you, as the project lead, read the SLA and make sure that everything's right. Once that's done, then forward it to the business office or grants office contact that needs it to go and get signatures from the institution. Those signatures come back to you with an invoice. This is going to be through an email that I give directions on. And this invoice is going to be the first invoice. It's for half the award. And that's sent to me in just one email so that I can keep it all together. This is a new thing. The invoice procedure used to be that we would have an invoice for the entire project, and we can make 2 different payments on it, and it was very easy to do. But unfortunately, when those sit in the business office for longer than 30 days, auditors come in and say, what is with this? We don't understand it. And so they want us to have 2 invoices instead of 1 so that they can measure how long it took to turn each one around. It's very business office-ish as opposed to what we're trying to do here, but that's the whole reason for it. So we need 2 invoices, one at the beginning with the SLA, one at the end with the final report. So I'll be entering those documents into the online system. The Board of Regents then signs it in their legal office. That can take up to a month most of the time. I hope for the best, for the fastest turnaround possible. It doesn't always happen, but we'll just really hope for that. The funds then get distributed from our business office to the institution. We use the invoice for that. So without the invoice, I can't make that payment because we need to get that invoice to accounts payable. They see the invoice and they're like, okay, that's exactly where we send it, and they send it out. The same thing happens when we receive the final report, when we get the invoice too, and then we will send that invoice to accounts payable once we know that everything's complete, and then they will send the funds to the institution. So if you have any questions on the status of the SLA, I'm the point of contact for that. Not Marie. Marie doesn't work with SLAs when it comes to these grants. Now, when it comes to reports, it's a little different from what you'd see in a larger grant, a standard scale or a large scale textbook transformation grant. This one is just one final report. And this final report is a little bit smaller than what you would see in a larger textbook transformation grant, because you're not also measuring student performance. You might, and that's really cool if you do, but what you're doing is reporting narratively on the creation of these new resources, what the process was like, what you would do differently the next time if you could, what's your next steps, your future plans. So this is a bit like the final report for the big ones, but there's not nearly as much measuring involved as the other one. You can have a link to your files within the final report if you want to do that. If you're hosting them on a campus website until I put them in the repository, that's absolutely fine. If you have a Google Drive link that you want to send, that's also fine. Just a way for me to get to them so that I can put them on the in our repository will be good. If you absolutely need to do this through email somehow, if you need to send me the files that way, you can. It's not as organized in that way because I like to have everything in one place so I can look at it all at one time and then add everything at once. But if you do need to do it through email, we can work it out too. And of course, the location of this report template is on the R12 info page. It is the most important page that I have for you in this round, and I'm trying to type this out at the same time. But let's see if I can do it. /about/R12_info. What I ask everybody to do, and I already emailed out this link to everyone, is to bookmark this if you're a project lead. This page doesn't just have links to the reports, it also has all of the kickoff documents that we did on our in-person kickoff meeting, and it has the deadlines listed. So if you ever have a question about when a report's due, you can just go right to that page and you'll see the deadlines for each semester of the project. I get a lot of questions through email on when reports are due, when the semester's coming to a close, and my please bookmark this page is kind of the it's in the syllabus of Affordable Learning Georgia. I just keep sending you to this page because I'm hoping that it is a hub for all the information that you'll need. So please be sure to bookmark the R12 info page, and I'll take you through a little bit of a tour of this later. So this timeline is a lot less complex than the standard scale ones. If it's your final semester, that's when you submit the mini-grant final report. The report links and the deadlines are on the R12 info page. Please bookmark it. And if you can't find this page for some reason, you can go through the Textbook Transformation Grants main page, go to Round 12, and click on Information for Round 12 grantees. And you can find it that way. So there's no semester status report here, just to be absolutely clear. If you're used to the standard scale timeline, you do not have to submit a semester status report for these. It is just the final report. As we know that this is an ongoing creation process, you've got a timeline on that, and there's not nearly as much starting of a particular semester, teaching a particular class with this. It's really about the creation process. So we really just want that last report. Now, if something goes wrong, feel free to get in contact with me as soon as you can, because hopefully we can work through something that goes wrong, as opposed to the other grants where you're able to always put that in a semester status report. But you're not required to do those reports over and over again. So let's just take a look at the R12 info webpage, because there's a lot on here. And unlike last time, some of you are kind of new to open education, to accessibility, and there's a lot here that will help. So on this page, we've got all the report deadlines by semester. We try to put the fall deadlines right at the end of December, and you'll see this with all of our deadlines. They try to be way past the point of grading for that semester, so that you've got the time to take a look at how something implemented in that semester worked, and analyze it and report out on it. This is much more important for the standard scale and large scale final report people who are specifically replacing commercial textbooks with OER in their courses. This is more about creation, so it's not as important, but the deadlines are the same. The semester status report, so these are not required for mini grants. We put this in italics right here to let you know. The final report, this is the one for standard scale, and this is the template for standard scale. For mini grants, it's the same page to submit your final report. You just need to submit your final report and hopefully your invoice. If your institution doesn't submit invoices until I say that your final report's been received, and that happens at some institutions, we can work that out. But if you can, please work with your business office to get your invoice in at the same time as your final report. Dr. Balut has a question. I might have missed this part, but do we submit the final report to the university business or grant office or to you? You submit it to me. So you do submit your final report, and in here you just have a little bit of stuff for your name. This puts it in a database that I can get to so that I know exactly which one I'm going to. And we have guidelines for both standard and large scale and for mini grants. There are 5 places to upload a file. That's because there are 5 things that standard and large scale need to submit, but you don't have to have 5 files. This was a problem at first. We actually had to go back and fix that to make sure that it did accept only 2 files. But that is all done. So if you have a lot of materials, you could submit them all here through a zip folder if you feel like it, or you can just link to the new materials in your final report. And you do have to prove that you're a human being. It's kind of a thing when it comes to uploading things in an expression engine form. So you would just type in whatever is here, and then you click submit. I'll take you through the template a bit. There it is. Hey, look, it's a script for a video. Okay, so I'm going to enable editing. There is not much here. This is a smaller report than what you're used to seeing in the bigger grants. This one is all the general information. If applicable to your project, how many students did it affect and the number of course sections affected, but that's only if applicable. If you're just creating this to enhance what's already happening and this isn't going to affect students immediately in your course, that's okay. For your project narrative, this is a description of how the project went. What did you make? What was the purpose, the plan? How did it go? Any lessons learned? The materials description, so here's the stuff that you made. You can link it here. Hopefully what we'll get out of this is a description that we can then share in Galileo Open Learning Materials. Metadata really helps. It helps people understand if they want to use your resources, and it helps people when they're searching for things to find the relevant resources. These are very Googleable, so it works out really well. I'm just going to show you Galileo Open Learning Materials a little bit here. Right now we have a hub for all of the open textbooks. We have a hub for grants collections, which are the big final reports and proposals and syllabi for the larger grants. Then we have all of the ancillary materials, and the ancillary materials have this short list here. You can see that Dr. Christian is already on here, and Dr. Morin, and this is a link out. This is different from what we usually do, but this is a link to an entire collection of YouTube videos for anatomy and physiology. And so there are some for the senses, nervous system, muscles, appendicular skeleton, axial skeleton, and we have a bit of a description in here just to describe what it is that it's covering. If you have a larger description, that's cool too. Human growth and development here. This is a set of lecture slides, and we did a little table of contents that lets everyone find what it is. You can even check some metrics here, how many people viewed the abstracts, how many downloads it's seen. These are quite new, so you won't see too many downloads on them, but we've already seen worldwide over 280,000 downloads since late 2016. So not only are we making a big impact in the state of Georgia by creating and sharing our work, but also in any English-speaking nation. Okay, so here is just a little bit more information on what the timeline is for standard scale and for mini grants. We've got the request for proposals. Sometimes your grants office will want this, so we have it linked right here. The platforms and hosting, this is just to show you, okay, we have Galileo Open Learning Materials, but there are also some other platforms you can use out there if you want to. You can also put things on, for example, OER Commons or Wikibooks or OER Pub or CNX with some help from OpenStack sometimes. There's just a few different ways that you can host materials outside of our repository here. And you can totally have a duplicate place to host your materials. If you host them somewhere else and we host them on Galileo Open Learning Materials, that's fine by us. That's even more visibility for your work. Then we have all the kickoff event documents from the in-person kickoff. Everything from the agenda to all the presentation slides. The ones that I think are really going to be helpful here are the end part of grant procedures and copyright licensing, because we didn't go over that part. Copyright and open licensing are really important towards why this whole project exists and how to really distribute your work and give permissions to people to remix and revise. Then there's a lot on accessibility. We had 2 accessibility sessions that AMAC taught at our our in-person kickoff meeting. We have one for the actual sessions that they ran. This was just the entire training slides that they'd had. They have a lot of checklists right on here, a bit about why accessibility matters, and a bit about how to use this in particular applications. So it's very helpful for creating accessible files, and keeping accessibility in mind from the start is very important. We have just a set of checklists for creating accessible documents. So if you're creating them in Word, here's some things that you need to keep in mind. If you're doing them in PDF, here's another one, PowerPoint, and Excel. Just a quick checklist for all of those. We have a list of accessibility resources for you, and this is also another document created by AMAC. This includes videos of how entire e-textbooks are created, EPUB formats, accessible formats, stuff about remote captioning, about both live captioning and asynchronous captioning. A little bit about what the AMAC Student Center is, about downloading software that AMAC has, about the Web Accessibility Group, Access GA. These are different initiatives within Georgia to keep stuff accessible. So there's all kinds of stuff there for accessibility that's one of the most important things that we do at the big kickoff meeting in person. So as you're going through, be sure to check out the kickoff documents and keep in mind open education, open pedagogy, copyright and open licensing, and a lot of stuff about accessibility is right there. The open education slides were made by Marie Lassiter and by Judy Grissett from Georgia Southwestern State University, and they're quite updated from what you may have seen in previous rounds. So they're updated especially for OER-enabled pedagogy and open pedagogy. There's more development happening in those fields, and we've added it there. If you're new to OER, there are a couple of places that I would recommend that you go. David Wiley's blog at opencontent.org. There's a lot of perspectives and ideas on open education, but he was one of the founders of open education in general. He was trying to get open education licenses going before Creative Commons licenses became a thing. He was trying to bring to education what had already been going on in software for a long time. The Creative Commons website is creativecommons.org. They are the creators of the open licenses that we all use throughout open education. If you want to choose an open license, they have a way to do that there. They have descriptions of every open license, and they describe what it is that their organization does and why it's important. The Open Education Group is a newer research group that is really kind of using the COUP framework, C-O-U-P, Cost, Outcomes, Use, and Perception, to try to measure different aspects of putting open educational resources in the classroom. They have a program called the OER Research Fellows. They select a new cohort every year. It's done through an application process. The first round of OER Research Fellows had 22 fellows in all, and 8 of them were from the University System of Georgia because we had had so much experience in this and so much drive to research efficacy at that point. So both check out the Open Education Group's work. They have an ongoing literature review of all the good, the bad, and the ugly about OER, and they've got this Research Fellows program that, you know, whenever they release a call, feel free to apply. Spark is the big nonprofit advocate out there for open access, open data, and also open education. If you saw the news that there was a big federal grant that happened last year for open educational resources and that it's now in its second year, Spark was a big part of informing lawmakers of what OER even is. So if you want to check out what they do and get an idea of why someone would advocate for open education, that's a great place to go. So that is it for my part of the presentation right now. So I want to open this up for questions with enough time that everyone can get to whatever meetings they've got at 3. So if you want to type it in chat or ask through your microphone or phone, feel free to. I am going to be quiet for a second.
I just had a question about any ancillary materials that may involve work that could be done by a grad assistant. Is there any money in the funding to hire a grad assistant?
So that's going to depend on your proposal and your institution. We don't object to including students in these projects, and we don't object to funding students in these projects either. But each institution has a very different set of policies as to how that works. So you'll want to talk to your grants office or business office to see if that's permitted and how it can work within the project that you have and the proposal that you have, which of course is the accepted one that's going to be the statement of work in this service level agreement.
Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Dr. Fleener says we did include students in our proposal. Do we need to submit the names to you when they are selected, or is that only needed by the business office on our campus? You would want to indicate the people who have been involved in the project in the final report if you want that distributed. If you need to keep it anonymous, then you can, but it would be good to credit whoever is involved in the final report if that's possible. Thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone typing at the moment. So what I'm going to do is type in my email address. You'll see it a lot. I do tend to distribute reminders, things like that. And if you have any questions, feel free to get back to me through email. You can find my email address and my phone number on the usg.edu website, but if you call my office, I may be out. For example, I was out all of Monday teaching a kickoff meeting. I was out for a good portion of the month of October because it is conference season, and I'm either presenting in the state or outside of the state, like with me and with Dr. Rutherford in Niagara Falls recently. And I am glued to my email. I will make sure that I'm answering email no matter where I am. But if you call my office, I won't be able to answer you until I get back to the office, whenever that is. So my email is a very easy way to get in contact with me. Definitely my preferred method. So with that, I'm going to thank you all for attending and for going through some of these procedures with us. Be sure to check out the kickoff materials in the Round 12 info page. Be sure to keep that page in mind as you go throughout the creation process, and contact me if you have any questions with it. The next thing that you'll get from me is an email with the service level agreements and instructions to distribute those. That'll be once all of those are done. I'm in the process of drafting them at the moment. So thank you all for being here. Have a great end to your week and great Halloween.
Well, thank you for the meeting, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Oh, you too.